Hey guys, welcome back to Verified Gains. Let's dive right into the charts for today for a little bit of a Monday update. Happy Monday, by the way. Hope everyone has a good week. Um, so Bitcoin, we're consolidating pretty well, above 94, $95,000. This morning, once again, we are back above $95,000. Um, let's turn on the Pi cycle top indicator to see where we lie relative to the 111-day moving average. And it looks like, we're doing pretty well above it. Now, don't be too surprised if we come down to about $91,000 to retest the 111-day moving average. And in just a little bit, I'm going to go over why that's a possibility before we break above $98,000. So, for now, we remain above it. I really, doubt that the likelihood is pretty low that we'll go back below 111-day moving average. Okay. Even if we do, it's probably not going to happen until later on, when we're back into the six-figure range. So let's just turn this off. So right now, that's where we are with Bitcoin. In terms of dollar cost averaging, what's a good opportunity? Well, if I were dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, two places, either when we retest, closer to the 111-day moving average, or number two, when we're above, this horizontal resistance line of $98,000 and we consolidate above that. So those are some two good price points to dollar cost average if I were to buy into Bitcoin. But I do want to supplement this information with the broader traditional equities market. So looking at Nasdaq 100 over here. Okay, so we are approaching the middle line of this parallel channel that we checked out before. However, I do want to turn your attention to this gap over here. Now, from a purely technical perspective, the market always tries to fill this gap. So basically what that means is, the high for April 22nd was around $18,500. And the next day, we actually opened and happened to be the low was 18,600, meaning there is a slight gap between 18,500 and 18,600. And it is very likely that we will actually retrace to fill in that gap. And that is not a small retracement because that is about -5%. So, if that happens, be on the lookout. If the Nasdaq falls 5%, for example, likely, the scenarios where we retest the center line over here, get rejected, and then retrace all the way back down here. Okay, and if that is the case, then that may also coincide with, Bitcoin retesting the 111-day moving average over here. Now, the reason I say that is because I'm not quite sure if Bitcoin has entirely decoupled from the traditional equities market. Traditionally we thought of it as a hedge against inflation, and I think that's why it's doing so well right now, along with the gold price. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see if that is the case. And, you know, I believe that used to be more of a case when there were less institutional investors involved in Bitcoin. But now a lot of these major companies and banks have exposures to Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So, I mean, the whole decoupling theory may be less and less likely moving forward. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 index very quickly. So this one has actually already started retesting the top of this parallel channel that we've looked at before, right? So now the big question is, are we going to break above it, or are we going to get rejected off of it and fill in this tiny, tiny gap over here? Okay, so that is around 3.8% drop for S&P 500. So very likely it can happen over the course of a week. I don't know if there's any significant news coming out this coming week, but something to definitely look out for from just a technical, excuse me, from a technical perspective. Okay, so that is what's going on. Let's move on to Solana. So Solana, over the weekend, tried to retrace a little bit, but come Monday, it looks like we're bouncing back above, um, around this 148, $147 range. So you know what? I'm actually just going to go ahead and maybe draw a resistance or a support line over here, rather. So I think that's a legitimate support line. Okay, we're seeing some good local movement over here where we broke through, we retested, and now we're either trying to bounce back up or consolidate above the $148 line. So things are looking okay for Solana. This week, I'll probably dollar cost average more into Solana. That is my plan. If we could get to 180, that would be perfect. That would be the best scenario, but we'll see. Even if we're above 148, that's it. I'm dollar cost averaging into it, and you know, a higher proportion of that, you know, um, paycheck, which I'm using to dollar cost average into Solana and other meme coins, is going to be in PopCat, our favorite meme coin. So how are we doing? So yesterday it was a red day, -5%. I went ahead and dollar cost average more into PopCat. Look, guys, from here on out, every red day I'm buying. So, that is my strategy. I am hyper aggressive, ultra risky strategy. I'm taking the hyper aggressive route. Every red day, I'm buying. Um, I'm not spending on shiny watches, fast cars, houses, none of that. None of that is important right now. If you have cash, okay, I have cash. Red day equals dollar cost average. That's it. Um, really, there's no turning back. This year is the year. It's a bull cycle. These kind of opportunities don't come around that often in your lifetime. Okay, so always remember that. I mean, for me, I know that these opportunities don't last long, number one, and number two, they don't come around often. So I'm taking full advantage of it, full tilt, all in, with PopCat, among many others. So, just as a reminder to our new subscribers, I'm also heavily invested in Dog with Hat and Turbo. But apart from that, it's mostly Solana, and good amount of my portfolio is still in Bitcoin because I've been investing for many years now. And initially, when I started out this journey, most of it was Bitcoin. So, even though I didn't have a huge amount of Bitcoin to start out with, because they grew over the years, um, that is still a significant fraction of my overall portfolio. Anyways, PopCat, where do I see the next stop being? So I was actually looking at my old charts. It's not on TradingView, but a different platform. And back then, I had a resistance line at the 46-cent mark. So I still think, that's a good, you know, price point to look at. So, we're right below that 42 cents today. Um, I imagine if you don't have any significant news or pullback, then we're going to go above 46 cents this week. And really there's no reliable technical, standards to guide us in that manner. It's really just sentiment at this point. I'm pretty, active on Twitter X, for example, and a lot of people are very bullish on PopCat. Um, you know, mainly for two reasons. I think the biggest one being, it's listed both on Coinbase and Robinhood for, the retail traders to participate in. And number two, you know, and I'm not sure how strong this argument is, but people are calling it the Doge of cat meme coin, right? So, under the cat category of meme coins is perhaps the largest and most popular one. And I just, I think it makes sense. I mean, when you say it makes sense, it sounds funny because at the end of the day, it's just a meme coin, but really a lot of these meme coins are based on sentiment alone. So if people are excited about it and they think that, they can make money off of it, I mean, they'll buy into it. And like I've said before, right now, the people who bought, down here, including me, around, I mean, if you bought around the 12 or 13 cents, that, I mean, congrats to you. My heaviest buying was around like the 17 and 18 cent mark. So I'll be, fully transparent there. And I've been heavily accumulating around the 25-cent mark as well. But, the people who've been buying up on this mini run over here, it's mostly people who've been in the crypto community. It's not your average Joe walking down the street, putting their savings into meme coins. Those people will join in later. Trust me. Once we hit $2, $3, and the news gets out, your friends, your typical non-crypto friends, who happen to have Coinbase installed on their account, you know, majority of them into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Trust me, they're going to be interested in a piece of this pie. They're going to say, hey, you know what? $500, $1,000, whatever. Maybe I'll put a little bit into PopCat just to see what happens. That day will come, and when that becomes 10 people, 1,000, 10,000 people participating in, that's when we're going to see PopCat absolutely skyrocket, hit $10, $20, some say even $50. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but look, I mean, back in, I forget which year, it was like, around or right after, like around like 2021, I want to say. I used to be the original member of, Wall Street Bets on Reddit. And I was part of that GameStop run where, people made insane amount of profit. I mean, was that my proudest trade? No, because I ended up holding the bag for a little too long, but I still sold for a profit. But otherwise my profit would have been, 35 times more than what I had sold on. So, it was not one of my greatest moments, but it was still a pretty fun, time to be in. And, that's a prime example of FOMO. And if you can move a company like GameStop, trust me, you can move a meme coin such as PopCat. So, all those people saying it's impossible to see like 50x, 100x. Oh, it can happen in meme coin, trust me. So, anyways, the video is getting a little too long, so I'll just stop here. Please subscribe and comment down below if you're also heavily invested in Solana and or PopCat. We'd love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, thanks for watching and thanks for listening. Have a good week. Bye bye.